Hi guys, welcome to Multiverse. Today we are going to make an Avengers video. Basically, some of you guys have been asking that I make more videos with Marvel characters. Some of you guys have been asking if I could make an Avengers video. And also some of you guys have been asking if I could make some more obscure characters. This video will do a little bit of that throughout the video. So I'm starting obviously with the first Avenger, Captain America. I've made a few videos with this character, so I will try to be brief. But basically, as you can see, using the Flash Cowl and a few other things, the Commander Steel emblem, we can recreate a pretty darn good version of our friend Captain America. We can pretty much recreate that look at the character creation. The only thing we need that is not available at character creation is the cowl, which is the Flash Cowl, or the Speedster Cowl, I should say, and the emblem, which is the Steel Commander Steel emblem. Why am I using the Commander Steel emblem as opposed to the Star emblem? Very simple. It allows me to have a really awesome Captain America shield. This is the shield we get at character creation when we create a character using the shield weapon. So if you want to be able to have that shield, you must have a character that uses that shield at character creation. And once you do have a character that uses that shield, then you can purchase the style with any other characters using replay badges. And why am I using the Commander Steel emblem as opposed to using the Star emblem? I will show you the difference. So technically the Star emblem works a bit better to recreate our friend Captain America, but the place where it doesn't work quite as well is with the shield, as you can see. So having the Commander Steel emblem give us a better looking shield, a more accurate looking shield for Captain America, although the star is the emblem we should actually use for Captain America. So basically we make a choice. Either we use the star emblem for Captain America and have a shield that is not exactly it, or we use the Commander Steel emblem and have a nicer looking shield. And depending on what you prefer, you can have either more blue or more white on the shield. You decide. Personally, I kind of prefer this version, but it's as you wish. I could probably make a video with only Captain America alone, showing half a dozen different costumes, but I'm going to try to remain to only make one, maybe two costumes per character, so that we can go through a whole bunch of characters. Here is our friend Iron Man. I made a few variations of this look throughout the years, and this is not so bad, although usually what I use is the cyborg chest piece in order to recreate our friend Iron Man. I usually, to recreate our friend Iron Man, I pretty much go with the cyborg chest piece and power reinforced gloves and boots. It looks a little bit more like the classic look that the character has. But as you can see, the cyborg chest piece isn't quite right. Like there's some textures that already has some color in it. I guess an option could be to use the gold material, but as you can see, the cyborg chest piece doesn't have sleeves. So if we want to use the gold material, we would have to use different other chest pieces. So this is pretty much the better option to recreate our friend Iron Man. And of course we can recreate a pretty darn good looking War Machine. We have been able to recreate War Machine for quite some time, but the shoulder cannon we got from the Earth 3 DLC, actually we got it from the Notorious Time capsules, that gives us an element that makes it even easier to recreate our friend War Machine. And next we have our friend the Mighty Thor. It was a bit more challenging than I thought to recreate the Thor. I thought this helmet would do a better job, but sadly in order to properly recreate our friend Thor, we actually would need like 5 colors. So with the 5 color scheme, it's about as close to Thor as I was able to get. Of course, I usually try to recreate the classic version of characters, and it's no different with our friend Thor. So we can recreate something that kind of sort of looks like Thor, like people who would see this would probably understand it's Thor, especially with the big hammer. The reason why I'm using the big two-handed hammer as opposed to the one-handed hammer is so that we can actually throw the hammer. For Thor, I prefer to use the two-handed hammer so that you can throw it away. But if you really want to have a one-handed hammer, there's quite a few hammers that could do the trick within this universe online. Next, we have our friend the Vision. Most of what we see here can actually be used at character creation. The exception to that would be the Racial Ghoul cape, and I'm using also the nuclear boots. But for the boots, half a dozen other boots would do the trick as well. It doesn't have to be the nuclear boots. Sadly, as you can see, the New Genesis pants have a tint in the yellow part of the pants, so sadly it's kind of hard to get the yellow that matches with the top part. But it still gives us a pretty darn good version of the Vision. Of course, there is an alternative if we do not want to use the New Genesis pants. In the late 80s, John Byrne changed the look of the Vision. Basically, he made the character all white for some reason. I guess he wanted him to look like a ghost or something. About halfway through the 90s, so they gave the Vision a look that was kind of sort of like its classic look. It lasted for quite a few years in the 90s, and the look was pretty much very close to what you're seeing right now. So if you want to recreate an accurate looking Vision, you could actually recreate the Vision from a good chunk of the 90s. But then towards the end of the 90s, the Vision went back to his classical look, as you can see in the armory. So you decide you have two ways to recreate a pretty good looking Vision character. And next here we have a somewhat obscure looking character, which was called Wonder Man. Basically, Wonder Man was a member of the Evil Masters of Evil who pretended to become an Avenger for a while to infiltrate the team. But sadly, he died after a while in his first appearance, but he was brought back quite a few times in the comics. Basically, his character died and came back quite a few times, but this is pretty darn close to the classic look that the character had originally. He went through a few variations of this costume, and then he ended up wearing civilian clothes for quite a while for some reason. But then later on, they went through a lot of costumes to try to give this character a look, and it didn't really work most of the time. And next we have our friend Hawkeye. Most of the costume, at character creation, you can recreate a pretty darn good version of Hawkeye. But for the mask, if you want to have this mask, you have to reach tier 5, and this is basically the Huntress mask. The chest piece is the Archer chest piece, I forget where it comes from. And the bracers are the Mera bracers. I'm sure there's other bracers we could use until you get the Mera bracers. But this is about as close to the Avenging Archer as I was able to get to. And to recreate our friend Hawkeye, an alternative to the Huntress mask is the Huntress headpiece. This is the PvP Huntress headpiece. So you're gonna have to play at least some PvP in order to be able to purchase that headpiece. So it's probably much easier to just try to reach tier 5 and to get the other Huntress mask. I guess you decide. But either way, you can recreate a pretty darn good looking Hawkeye character within DC Universe Online. And next I decided to make Yellow Jacket. I probably should have made Ant-Man, seeing how there was at least a couple of movies with Ant-Man, but I much prefer Yellow Jacket for a whole bunch of reasons. Although some of you who may know the character only through the films know him as an evil villain, basically Yellow Jacket was used as the evil villain in the first Ant-Man movie, but it wasn't really how it happened. The character's name is actually Henry Pym. Henry Pym started as Ant-Man, then later on became Giant Man, and then later on became Yellow Jacket. And then he switched back and forth between Yellow Jacket, Ant-Man, and Giant Man a couple of times for reasons. Eventually he became only Hank Pym, basically was just a scientist, so sort of working for the Avengers. But he became Yellow Jacket again at some point, and the character changed identities way too often. It's hard to keep track of all of them. But basically, this is pretty darn close to what Yellow Jacket used to look like in the comics, at least in his first appearance, all the way up to the mid-late 80s. To the mid-80s, I suppose. And then we have the Beast. Yeah, I know some of you would tell me, but the Beast is an X-Men, he's not an Avengers. The Beast was an Avengers towards the end of the 70s and through a good chunk of the 80s. That's how I first discovered the character. To me, the Beast is the blue furry character that was in the Avengers. That's how I first met the character. So it's always a bit weird for me to now see him in the X-Men. And also, it was a bit weird whenever they would try to cure the Beast by having him not be the blue furry Beast that we've known and loved. I guess you could say that I'm pretty much making a whole bunch of Avengers from the 70s and the 80s. Like at the time that Beast was an Avenger, we had Yellow Jacket. Beast was a very good buddy with our friend Wonder Man. Also, Wonder Man, a thing I forgot to mention about Wonder Man is that when they created the Vision, basically the mind that they used to create the Vision was Wonder Man's mind somehow. So using the Racial Ghoul hair and some very simple elements like the briefs, you can recreate a pretty darn good looking Beast. If you want to go one step further, I'm using the werewolf hands and the werewolf feet. I should probably have made a better job trying to match the blue of the hands with the blue of the chest piece, the blue of the skin essentially. Oh well. And next we have our friend Black Panther. I know that a lot of people seem to think he's very popular since last year thanks to his movie, but I've always been a fan of Black Panther. I first saw him in the pages of the Avengers, but I saw him also then later on in the pages of Fantastic Four. I always thought he was a neat looking character. I guess some people compared it to Batman, like he was supposedly the Black Batman or something. I guess I can understand why they would say that. So might be why I kind of liked the character. Batman is pretty much my favorite character, and there's a lot of characters that I kind of liked that I realized through the years that were either inspired by Batman or in some cases inspired Batman. Like I'm a big fan of the Phantom, and the Phantom came before Batman, but there's a lot of elements from the Phantom that were reused by Batman. So I guess the same could be true with Black Panther. Black Panther reused maybe a few elements from Batman, so that might be why I kind of like the character. I pretty much reproduced the quote-unquote classic look of the character. I kept the neck piece, the Vixen emblem to recreate the neck piece. But other than that, I pretty much stuck close to the classic version of the character. And next we have our friend Star Fox. Avengers Infinity War was pretty big last year, and for those who don't know, Star Fox is the brother of Thanos. I wonder if we're going to see Star Fox in Avengers Endgame or something. We didn't see many Eternals. Basically, Star Fox, Thanos are a race of a character that's called Eternals in the Marvel Universe. Pretty simple to recreate our friend Star Fox. The most challenging piece to be able to get is the Racial Ghoul hair, I suppose. Once you have that, pretty much any type of bracers could do the trick. The Vixen, he has a little emblem that kind of looks like the Vixen emblem. And for the boots, you could use a whole bunch of boots. Here I'm using the nuclear boots. But this is pretty much a look that you can achieve almost right at character creation if you want to. And next we have our friend Sam Wilson, the Falcon. No, this looks nothing like the movie version. I tried to reproduce a more classic version of the Falcon from the comics, but I had a hard time. Basically, the classic version of the costume was very difficult to reproduce in this universe online. But this is a version of the costume that the Falcon had in the early 2000s up to maybe late 2000s. So there's quite a few years where the Falcon had a look pretty darn close to this. It's a bit generic in terms of look. It's not his best look or his most iconic look, but within the context of this universe online, this is about as close as I was able to get to reproduce the costume of our friend the Falcon. And last but not least, we have the Black Knight. I told you we would have a few obscure characters, although maybe not as obscure as Star Fox, but still, I'm sure lots of you guys maybe didn't know who the Black Knight was. We can recreate a pretty darn good version of the Black Knight, as you can see, and even the classic version, for that matters. What we really need is the Green Knight headpiece and the Shimtar belt, and we're good to go for our friend the Black Knight. There's quite a few swords that will do the trick with this character. So this look can pretty much be achieved at the character creation, except for the helmet and the belt. That shouldn't be too difficult to get. But sadly, you're gonna have to have access to the broker in order to be able to get the belt and the headpiece. So I guess if you're a free-to-play player, that could prove to be challenging, to say the least. And that is pretty much it for our friends, the Avengers. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask so in the comment section down below, and I'll see what I can do about answering your questions. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.